Hi, my name's Rosie. Welcome to my channel.
For this project you will need some cheap felt. It only has to be cheap, like from the kids department at a craft shop. You do not have to use your really nice expensive wool mix felt that you would use for other projects. It's still going to have a really strong impact. You need needles and thread for sewing, scissors, paper and thin card to make a template, a picture of the character you want to make, and a calico banner. Now this is optional. I've used it as a back piece to put all my felt pieces onto, but you could use any type of sturdy fabric, or you don't need a backing at all. The felt itself can be used as the back of the picture that you're going to create. So today we're going to be making a banner. Got a hold of an already made calico plain banner, which is designed for you to decorate yourself. It's a very heavy cotton or calico. It has had some kind of treatment on it, so if you try and paint it, it probably won't take the colour that well, but if you give it a wash, that might help. And this is quite a long one. Comes with a string and a wooden pole, so you can hang it up once you've finished it. We're going to be making a Bender one from Futurama. My son has just started watching Futurama and I'm a bit of a fan, so I thought this would be a really easy, quick one to make. This is the rough pieces I've made. Very rough drawing, please don't laugh, but this does show that you don't need to be able to draw to do embroidery and these kind of textile crafts. So we're going to be working with felt. Love working with felt because it doesn't fray. You can cut it, gives a really nice clean edge, so you don't have to do any kind of finish on the edge, which makes projects really simple and quick and easy to do. So I'm hoping we can do this one in just a couple of hours. Roughly done the design, and we're going to cut each thing out, place it on top of the felt, and then cut around it. So I've filled in a few details here of the eyes and the teeth. You won't need those. What you actually need is just a really simple outline, which we're going to cut and then pop on the felt and cut that out. The smaller details will be the bits that you bring out with embroidery. I think you can recognise his outline, so we're going to go with that. Got the letters here. You can tell I used a stencil. I'm not sure if I will leave the gaps or not. Looks quite cool. Looks like it might be a Bender style, so I might keep them. And then this is obviously a little cigar, which we might have him smoking as well. Once you've cut out your pieces, we're going to pin them to the felt fabric. I've got some really tiny pins here, which are probably really good for the smaller pieces, but you could probably use larger pins for the big pieces like this. cut out his mouth, and I'm then going to use his mouth as the template for his teeth, making it slightly larger so it can slip underneath. I'm going to put him to one side, so I've still got quite a bit of grey I can use for highlights. Just need as many pins to make it stable, so you don't need that many on a big piece like this. See, my craft table's getting a little bit messy with this project. There we go. And here are all the letters. And because a lot of them are in two pieces, they're going to need pinning securely. Alternatively, you could draw around the paper. You need something that would show up on black. Possibly like a tailor's chalk. Pins might rook up the paper a little bit, so I've got to be mindful of that. You don't really have to position them in order, because you can do that once you cut out the letters. I should have really done this lower down to get the best use of the fabric. Silly me. What's this? There we go. The last couple of pieces, I decided I wanted a really fat cigar, so I've just made it slightly bigger. It's always best to make the template slightly bigger, because then obviously you just trim it down afterwards. Here are the teeth. I will also need to do the eyes, but I want to see what size his visor is that his eyes sort of sit in, how that looks before I cut out the eyes. Right, I'm going to go and cut out all these pieces. So here is the original drawing, which just goes to show you don't have to be able to draw to do these things. So I've got Vote Bender at the top. His head was a little bit long, and I had more of his body showing, which I decided just to simplify it I think in these banner type things, it is better just to have big, simple shapes. Plus I was obviously having trouble getting his arms to look like they're folded, so ignore that. And then you can see I've got some very funky looking stars at the bottom, which I will find a star to draw around if I decide to do that. And then we just decided to put a little cigar in his mouth to make it look even more like Bender. So it's gone from this, a little drawing, to a drawing on paper, to the felt cutouts, and the next step is sewing it all together. So when you next see it, it's going to look very different. So we've got Bender here, his outline. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sew his teeth into the back, just around here. So you will get a layered up effect, which is really good. But what I'm not going to do is sew this down onto the background fabric, then sew this on top, because you're going to be sewing through more layers of fabric, which makes it harder. So it is really nice to get that layered up effect, but the more layers you use, obviously the harder it is to sew. At this point, trust the process. So if you're thinking, this looks a bit naff, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, keep going, because once all the pieces are together, it can look really quite bold and dramatic and fun, of course. This is only a quick project, which should take a couple of hours, so it's not taking up a massive amount of your time, but it looks really effective. And here is the finished felt Bender banner. Let's highlight a few things for you. So to sew on the main felt to the backing, I just used simple running stitch. Same colour, or as close as I could to the felt. It just kind of blends in when you're looking at it from a distance. Same with the black lettering, just used a running stitch. For Bender himself, I actually used back stitch because I thought it was a little bit more decorative, and obviously he's made of metal, but it looks a little bit like metal rivets. You can see I've layered up his eye section. He's slightly side on, so his eyes are pointing this way, even though his visor is over here. For the star over here, again, just a tacking running stitch. Here I did a little more detail on the cigar. So if you look closely, this stitch is split stitch. A little bit of back stitch with a little star shape on the label. And here I decided to do French knots. So that's meant to be the end of the cigar that's all lit up. I also used a little bit of padding underneath the cigar to give it a slightly rounded feeling. And there you have the completed Bender. Very simple project. I admit it did not take 2 hours because life kind of got in the way, but I would say it's a weekend project, something you can do in a weekend.